All right, good morning everyone and welcome to the regular meeting of North Kawartha Council. Apologize, we were a little bit delayed coming out of our Committee of Adjustment. It is 9:40. I want to welcome all the folks that are joining us live in the studio today, and as well as the folks that are joining us online. I want to remind everybody, most folks should know by now, but just in case for those that don't, we do record our meetings and we upload them to our YouTube channel. So just be aware that any comments or any opinions that are expressed during the meeting will be recorded and available for members of the public to hear. And before we get into our business, Council would like to acknowledge that we meet on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, in particular our neighbors from Kawartha Anishinaabe and Curve Lake First Nations. We recognize and honor the original people of this place we call North Kawartha. As duly elected representatives, we follow this Indigenous practice of acknowledgement to foster respectful deliberations, thoughtful collaboration, and wise decision-making in our service to this community. Okay, and disclosure of pecuniary interest. Is there any member that has an interest with any of the matters before us today? I'm not seeing any, so we'll move on from that. Adoption of the agenda. Kelly, I believe there is an addition, and then Ruth Ann, so your hand went up. Or you want to adopt it, but we got to do an addition first.
That the agenda be adopted as amended to include the staff report for support for Bill 119, administrative monetary penalties for zoning bylaw enforcement.
Perfect, okay. Ruth Ann, you'll make a motion to adopt the amended agenda. Jim, you'll second that. All those in favor? The amended agenda has been approved. And I'm going to go out of order on the agenda because it says right there that we're doing your retirement presentation right now, but we're not. But actually it does have it listed for 11 a.m., but I think it's going to be a little bit later depending on how quickly we get through today's business. So first off, I'm going to do the fun stuff, which is always great. We're going to do introduction of new staff and new positions, the promotions. And I'm going to start with the promotions first. So we have Kyle White here, and Kyle has been appointed to the Public Works foreperson position. Kyle started as a part-time equipment operator and has been with the township for 8 years. He brings a wealth of knowledge in both municipal road maintenance and equipment operation, along with a strong work ethic and commitment to the department. Throughout his time with the township, Kyle has demonstrated leadership, professionalism, and a dedication to providing a high level of service. And we're confident he will be an asset to the team in his new role as foreperson. So congratulations, Kyle.
Thank you.
Perfect. All right. And next up is, who's absent, it's Mackenzie Sykes. She has been promoted to financial analyst IT supervisor. Mackenzie started in 2018 as our front counter summer student and became our full-time accounting assistant in August 2018. And she loved it here so much, she said, especially her boss, Judy. I worked it in. In 2023, Mackenzie moved up to financial assistant IT coordinator and has now been promoted to, today her position is financial analyst IT supervisor. Mackenzie has taken all of the required courses for her new position and is currently working on her municipal administration program. And in fact, the reason she isn't here today is because she's off attending another conference. She's getting more training, learning more about our citywide software. So congratulate Mackenzie, please. She can watch the video after to see it all. And now I'd like to introduce some more new staff. We're adding to the team here. First up, we have Colin Jones. Colin brings extensive experience as an IT professional, troubleshooting, diagnosing, and resolving end user issues quickly, efficiently, and with a friendly face. He holds multiple IT certifications, including a BA in media production, and he is our new IT support technician full-time. Colin is dedicated to bringing human-first approach to technical support. He is eager to jump in and excited to get to work training staff. I hear you're really jazzed about it, and we're really jazzed to be trained because we need it. We're going to be training staff and council on our rapidly developing systems and software. He is accustomed to being busy and addressing a high volume of support requests, and based on that alone, you're going to love it here. Congratulations, welcome. And we're going to move over a little bit down the road there, and she's hiding behind Kyle, but I'd like to introduce Sarah McConnell. She is our interim CEO librarian. As the interim CEO librarian, Sarah brings a wealth of knowledge and practical skills to her role. She has worked in 5 library systems, managing branch operations, supervising and coaching unionized staff, building community partnerships, and delivering programs for diverse age groups. Sarah holds a Master's of Information from the University of Toronto and has completed a Master of Business Analytics and Artificial Intelligence at Ontario Tech University. She brings advanced technical proficiency and is engaged in the evolving role of public libraries in community technology literacy through presentations at the OLA Super Conference and invited sessions for other library systems. We are thrilled to have, to have Sarah here and put her skills and experience to good use in our library over the next year. So welcome, Sarah. And I'm introducing someone else from the library, although she unfortunately couldn't be here today, Julie Walsh, who is our contract library clerk. Julie is joining our library team as a full-time clerk for the next 4 months to provide much needed support during our busy season. She's local to Haliburton, has spent more than 15 years in rural public libraries, and holds the SOL's Advanced Excel certification in managing a small public library. Outside her library role, Julie has shared some information. She has an old fat cat named Jack, and her hobbies include any activity that brings her closer to nature. She's also very crafty, has been known to make her own jewelry. So from one crafty cat lady to another, I'd like to welcome Julie. So, and last but not least, I'm thrilled to welcome back Shannon Hunter to her North Kawartha home as our interim CAO. Shannon was our township CAO from 2002 to 2015. Then she moved next door to become the CAO for Highlands East Township until her retirement in 2023. With a lot of staff transitions over the past 6 months and an upcoming municipal election, Shannon's prior knowledge of our municipality, as well as her expertise from 32 years of municipal experience, will help guide North Kawartha through 2026 and set us up well for the next term of council in 2027. Welcome back, Shannon.
Look around the building, guys, she built it.
Did you come up with 108 reasons why we wanted it?
There was a whole team of us.
Yes, there was.
There was. All right, well, welcome, and very excited to have all you folks on Team North Kawartha, so thank you. Okay, so anyone that doesn't want to be here can go. Thanks, guys. And just like that, the crowd dissipates. Thanks, everyone. Okay, so I am going to declare that we're going into a statutory public hearing for the purpose of hearing 2 shoreline road allowance applications. Today, we hold a public hearing so we can hear these applications, but it also provides an opportunity for members of the public to provide comments on these requests here. So I'm going to turn it over to our planning assistant, Bree, and she's going to take us through these 2 applications. Please. Good morning.
Good morning, thank you, Madam Mayor. The first application is to purchase an open municipal road allowance. Recommendation that following the input received in the public hearing, council consider passing the appropriate bylaw to stop up, to close, and to sell to the abutting landowners or their respective nominees those lands and premises more particularly described in Schedule A. The Township of North Kawartha currently has policies offered unopened municipal road allowances for sale. The abutting landowner at 1860 Northeast Bay Road has submitted an application according to the above policies, guidelines, and application process to purchase the unopened municipal road allowance subject land road allowance between concessions 8 and 9, geographic Township of Burleigh, Township of North Kawartha, being Part 1 on Plan 45R-17576, being part of PIN 28297-0153 LT, subject to an easement in favor of Hydro One Networks Incorporated and Bell Canada. All posting and notice requirements have been met, and to the time of this report, the clerk and I have not received any written submissions in regard to this application.
Okay, thank you for that, Bree. Now I'll ask if there's anyone here that wants to speak on this application. Either the applicant or the owner. Any member of the public. I'm not seeing anyone online, and there's no members of the public here in the council chambers that's looking to speak, so turn it over to council.
Recommendation, Madam Chair.
Pretty straightforward. Seconded by Ruth Ann. All those in favor? That is approved. Okay, and next one, please.
Okay, and the next one is an application to purchase shoreline road allowance. Recommendation that following the input received in the public hearing, council consider passing the appropriate bylaw to stop up to close and to sell to the abutting landowners or their respective nominees those lands and premises particularly described in Schedule A. The Township of North Kawartha currently has policies to offer shoreline road allowances for sale. The property owner has applied to purchase the shoreline road allowance in front of their property at Lot 8 in Concession 7, municipally known as 13 Swallow Lane. Upon review of the property, we have found that there are some deficiencies. Staff recommended council defer the passage of the bylaw until property complied. The original report was brought forward to council on May 19th, 2026, and deferred until requested 4.5 meters side lot line setback was met, along with the deck being brought into compliance with the zoning bylaw. The property owner and their agent notified the building and planning department that the dock and the deck had both been removed, and a site visit was conducted on June 2nd, 2026, which was completed by Matt Oldham, our chief building official. He confirmed that the property owner had completed the removal and they were now in compliance with the zoning bylaw and the setback. All posting and notice requirements have been met. The 2 email submissions of opposition have been included as attachments to the report. Those were previous with the other.
Yeah, we received those at the
Yes.
at the May 19th meeting. All right, thank you, Bree. And I would ask if there's anyone here that would like to speak on this application and perhaps add further information to what Bree has provided. This is your opportunity to do so. You don't have to if you don't want to, but okay. Is there anybody that wants to speak on this application? Any member of the public? I don't see anything in there, and we haven't received any further written submissions other than the original ones.
That's correct.
And with the changes that were made, that is addressed.
Yes.
Those concerns. Okay, perfect. Just making that crystal clear. All right, so I'm turning it over to members of council. If you've got questions or comments, or I'm looking for a motion, please. Ruth Ann.
I would move the recommended motion.
Okay, and seconded by Jim. All those in favor? That's approved as well.
Thank you very much.
All right, 2 for 2, Bree. Thank you. Okay, and I'm going to declare that we are out of statutory public hearing, and I believe we're actually kind of not that on time. We do have a closed session, we did have it scheduled tentatively for 9:45. It's 9:50 right now, so we need to go into close. I'm looking for a motion. Hang on, let me do it properly. Pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act, this part of the meeting is closed to the public as the subject matter being considered is advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege with respect to procurement. So, anybody that shouldn't be here, I'd like to ask you please leave, and you can come back in once we're done with our closed. Did I get a move before that? Moved by Ruth Ann, seconded by Jim. All in favor? We're in closed, people. Thank you. All right, welcome back, everyone, and I'd like a motion to come out of closed and back into open, please. Moved by Ruth Ann, seconded by Jim. All those in favor? We do have a motion coming out of closed, and I'm looking for a motion for council to approve the purchase of a 2026 frontline pumper for the North Kawartha Emergency Services as tendered from City View Specialty Vehicles based on the results of the tender process. Moved by Jim, seconded by Ruth Ann. All those in favor? That is approved. All right, so thank you for that. And now we'll get back onto the business on the open agenda, and we've done our road allowances, so we're up to presentations and deputations. So we have county report, bit of an update we received at our last county council meeting from Eorn on the Cell Gap project. They're kind of closing in. The towers in North Kawartha are up. I'm not sure if they're quite online yet, but it's imminent, basically. We also got, they did an update about Municipal Service Corporation review, and it's a bit of a feasibility study, recognizing that there are some challenges, and economies of scale certainly apply to it. It's something that at this point in time, a lower tier municipality like us would be a struggle maybe financially. So it certainly does make sense to look at it at a broader level and sort of joint, either at the upper tier or with multiple municipalities joining in on that. So, I mean, there's still work to be done. Like I said, Frontenac has sort of been the trailblazer when it comes to these kind of organizations and looking at alternatives, because for a lot of small rural communities like ours that don't have the infrastructure for sewer and wastewater. Come on in. So it's something to continue to look at. And then we also, this is very interesting, and I think I mentioned it a couple of, is it a year or two ago, county developed a road rationalization policy. And it's basically to help guide the process of uploading or downloading roads between lower tier and upper tier. And the first part or the first action of this policy is taking place, and that is there's some trading back and forth between Selwyn and the county for certain roads. So Selwyn, a portion of County Road 12 is going to Selwyn, and portions of Fairburn Street, third line of Smith, and Lily Lake Road are going back to the county. So there's a process that's going through, like the legal, the surveys, and some money that goes back and forth. And it looks like, I think Selwyn's going to be owing the county a bit of money, and that they've worked out sort of a payment thing. But very interesting to see sort of a first test for this policy and how it works. But stay tuned, because I expect that there will be more that will be coming forward and maybe even impacting our own community. So, but it's important to know that that's happening. And lastly, there was some discussion about the provincial federal development charges reduction program and the whole thing about if you reduce your development charges, we'll kick in a bunch of funding. And the county decided no, they weren't going to do that. It was too big of a risk. It's no guarantee that we're going to get the money back. And one of the things that we did talk a lot about is there's a real difference, and we know this anyway, when it comes to a lot of things between urban municipalities and rural municipalities. The level of charges that we have are fairly low in comparison, and the impact is different. So there has been discussion from, I think, the province, I don't know about the feds, that there is going to be a bit of a rural focus when it comes to development charges that may be coming forward to sort of address that. Because it isn't a level playing field, but at this point, like I said, the county did not jump on board with the program. And I know some of you may have, like in the news too, the city has decided to try it out, so we'll see what happens with that. But that's the county update. I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, you've covered everything. But when our development charge, of course, as a township, we don't have one.
The only one.
But at the county, it's about $12,000, I think now, isn't it? Around 12,000.
It is, we collect it.
But one of the projects in Peterborough was $900,000 for the development charges. So I can see where maybe they should cut it down a little bit. But anyway, that's that's the difference between urban and rural. So as Carolyn says, they have to bring on something for the urban or for the rural, because it just doesn't make sense. So.
Yeah.
The development charges also bring really different service levels. So what does the $12,000 that people pay for development charges for the county get put towards?
It's like, there's like roads.
80% of it's roads.
Roads infrastructure, but there's also things, like it's even in there, like our paramedic, like a lot of the like some of those services as well too. Like, I'm just trying to think of what the report was. If you just give me 1 second, I can open it up. Because we did talk about it. We identified that it's a lot of things, and we would risk potentially losing, that financial income for some of those things. So just hang on a second and I'll find it for you. Because Sharon, and this was a late addition because council had asked directed staff, like, we want to know what's going on with this stuff, right? And we hadn't heard it. We heard rumblings, but there was nothing that had come out from the province. And then the announcement had just happened. And so then Sheridan was able to pull together a report. Get it?
I'll try.
It's gonna get you. Hang on. Here it is. Okay, so Provincial Federal Development Charge Reduction Program, and
There it is.
okay, hang on. Let me get down here. So, just trying to find it here. So our ability to collect and pay for growth-related projects greatly reduced. Hang on, I'm sorry, this is a big report. It's important to note, while county's development charge collection is predominantly for roads and related infrastructure, development charges are also being collected for paramedic services, long-term care, studies, waste, and the health unit. The development charge collections over the 3-year period or more would be lost, and the county would have to find other funds to support those programs, like if we had joined in on it. So I can share that report with you if you want, to like for all council, because like it's pretty thorough. Like
Yeah, that's
It's-
good report.
yeah, there's 9 pages. So I'll certainly share it with all you guys. So anyway, so that's it. Is there anything else when it comes to the county report? Can I have a motion to receive then the county report? Moved by Ruth Ann, seconded by Colin. All those in favor? That's been received. Crowe Valley. It's gonna be a distraction. I'm gonna call it recess till we catch the mosquito. Anyway, next is Crowe Valley Conservation Authority report, and that's Colin.
So we meet on Thursday, but it's mostly just a policy-based meeting, corporate records and stuff like that. So it's a mostly non-report for today.
Okay.
I can skip ahead to the general manager's report and let you know that the watershed levels are all normal right now.
They're not high?
They're not high. They're considered normal.
Okay.
But again, it'll be a short meeting when we do have it, so.
Okay. All right, so there's really, it's not a non-report. Basically, okay, moving on. Adoption of the minutes of the previous meeting of council that was held on June 2nd. Can I have a mover to adopt those minutes, please? Anyone? Jim, seconded by Ruth Ann. All those in favor? Those have been adopted. Consent agenda. And I haven't received any comments for anyone that wanting to pull anything out of the consent agenda, so can I have a motion then to receive the contents of the consent agenda? And seconded by Colin. All those in favor? That has been received, and we are back into planning, and here we are, yep. Hey Laura, welcome back. We're back to the consent thing. I'm sorry, we always said we were gonna pull this ahead, but we had to go into close, so it kind of messed the schedule up. But I'm glad you waited around, so please go ahead.
Thank you very much. This is for consent application B 1826, which is application for lot addition. The recommendation is that council recommends to the County of Peterborough approval of consent application B 1826 for the purposes of a lot addition with the condition of rezoning the parcel of land being transferred to shoreline residential. The background information is as such. The subject property is 145 Luneco Lane, roll number 15361010100152000. The property owners are Janice Kaler and Stephen Lang. The agent for the applicant is Linda Fowler. It is zoned rural with an official plan designation of seasonal residential and rural. The existing lot size as it sits today is 4.85 hectares. The intention is to sever 0.4 hectares to be added to 483 Knox Point Lane. The benefiting roll number is 153601010018000. This has a shoreline residential zone with an exception 319. The official plan designation is seasonal residential. The existing area is 0.5 hectares, and the area after the benefiting lot addition would be 0.9 hectares. So in the report, I added the diagram of what is intended to be severed and added to 483 Knox Point Road. It's pretty straightforward. It just essentially adds some mass to the back of the existing property at 483 and severs off a portion of the 145 Luneco Lane, which is kind of in the center of a peninsula there. So there is no concern about continuing access along Knox Point Road. That continues to be a right-of-way and that won't change. So as it's the authority of the County of Peterborough Land Division staff to finalize a decision on this consent application, They have to review the plan policies and the provincial planning statement. But in general, it does meet the intent of our zoning bylaw, and I recommend that council recommends approval.
All right, thank you very much, Laura. Any questions or comments for Laura on this matter? Somebody want to make a motion? Or Dan?
I'll move the recommended motion, so it's.
Perfect, we recommend approval,
Yeah.
okay. Seconded by Jim, all those in favor? That is approved. All right, thanks very much, Laura.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you. Okay, and Jesse's coming up because we have a Hydro One Community Partnership Grant. We're looking for some more money. I'm down with that, you know that.
We never stop looking for money.
All right, please go ahead, Jesse.
Good morning, Madam Mayor and Council. In front of you this morning is a council report in regards to a grant opportunity. Hydro One has released a grant for up to $25,000 for emergency preparedness, critical infrastructure, and community well-being. And if we were successful, we would be looking at dedicating those funds to what came out of the debrief in the Derecho and ice storm. As you can see in the report, we would be looking to purchase some Generalink transfer switches, a gas generator for the Public Works repeater, and a base radio for Emergency Operations Center. And we still are working with Gary Giraldi on a couple other projects. So if council approves, we'd be looking for them to approve us in moving forward with the application, and the mayor writing a letter in support.
Oh, I have no problem doing that. I can certainly do that, so
Move the recommendation.
that's pretty straight.
Sorry,
Yep.
seconded, but with
Yeah,
the question.
absolutely.
And Gary's here too, fantastic. Are we able to use this to replace some of the existing generators? 'Cause I don't know, I've long been nervous about the one that's in behind the medical center.
Good news about the one behind the medical center. This spring, we spent a fair amount of money upgrading. That generator would be, Elaine and I had a quote, it's about 70 to 80,000 to replace that generator. Because it's a 400 amp service, and it's very large. But we had some upgrades done to that, and recently we did a test, and it's running great. This Hydro One grant, I believe, was $25,000 for Jesse, so it does limit us to what we can do within the grant. But the Generlinks will be a great fail-safe for those facilities, you know, that have a generator that may fail. The Generlinks, we can come in with a portable one and plug in. But with $25,000, we are limited as to what we can do. But the medical center should, with what we recently did, hopefully should bring us some relief and some confidence.
Knock on wood. But I do think certainly, I mean, we've talked about it a lot, and it's going forward, a big focus. I think we talked a lot about emergency preparedness, because this isn't a, like, you know, once in a blue moon thing that happens. It's happened a lot, certainly in the last 8 years that I've been mayor. So I think I want it to be part of our strategic planning, capital forecast, but so looking at things like what is the age of the generator at the medical center. It's great that we fixed it up and we're gonna get some more life out of it, but, you know, putting monies aside. So, you know, when that time comes, you know, for that building or any other, that we're prepared to replace, right? It's an important asset, right, for sure. So, but anyway, the motion is moved and seconded, and all those in favor? That's approved. I'll get that letter to you quickly. What's the deadline on it? For the,
Today.
today?
No. June 26th.
Okay, you get it by 3:30. Okay, perfect. Thank you for that, and Gary, all right, you got a few things up on the agenda today. And I've seen this before, the pen challenge, collecting the pens at school. But anyway, I don't want to steal your thunder, go ahead.
No, you're not stealing my thunder. Good morning, Madam Mayor and Council. Before you, the first one is the Clean Up Peterborough Recycling Initiative. So I'll just quickly read the recommendation. The Township of North Kawartha become a Clean Up Peterborough Community Partner to consider participation in future cleanup Peterborough recycling initiatives, provide they align with our township budgetary considerations, strategic priorities, and operational objectives. So Steve Paul is the founder of Cleanup Peterborough. They're strictly a volunteer, little volunteer organization. He had actually contacted, was lucky to get a hold of both Jason and I in the office one day, in Jason's office, and he shared with us what their initiatives are. He does now have the buy-in of 6 of the 8 Peterborough County municipalities. And as you can see, they don't, there's not a lot of items that they collect. Most of them are small. I think, you know, some of the idea behind this too is to really kind of, you know, foster some conversation within families and get people talking about recycling and bring it to the forefront. And it certainly does increase our diversion. In June, as the mayor referred to, they had the Writing Instrument Challenge. And I believe this was the 2nd annual one. And at different times of the year, they'll come up with a few of the other ones. They do have some reuse items that they focus on as well too. So we are seeking council's permission to become a partner with them so that we can participate with some of their initiatives as they come up throughout the year.
All right, good. Do you know if they're, what about, if they're on board with the school board? Do you know?
Yeah, he had said that one of his big things, of course, is to get in with the schools and also to educate the kids, because, you know, educating the children in the schools create those conversations in the homes, right?
Yeah.
But I believe they are, he is engaging in the school boards as well too.
Yeah, because I was just thinking even with our local school, I mean, just if we're gonna participate, like whether or not an opportunity for township to participate, like if we're doing a program, like we're gonna do the writing implement collection, post it at the school, a lot of pens and markers there.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, and Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure that he in that they had partnered with the Oxley Public School yet, but getting
But
into
maybe we can, like, do it for them, right?
Yeah.
Right? So, anyway, no, it's
You bet.
it's a great idea. I think it's awesome, so. Any other questions or comments for anyone? Can I have somebody move the recommendation? Moved by Ruthann, seconded by Colin, all those in favor? That's approved, 1 for 3, Gary. But who's counting?
Here's count. The next one is the, Madam Mayor, is the North Kawartha Veteran Banner Program. And again, the recommendation here is the council approve funding in 2026 for the Veteran Banner Program in the amount of $3,240 plus HST for the production of additional banners and an estimated $1,250 for the mounting hardware and scissor lift rental. And further, the required funding come from general reserves as necessary. So again, without, I'm sure everybody is familiar with this program, and without going into it in detail, over the last 2 years, we've installed 32 banners. The initial objective was to recognize all the veterans on the Apsley Cenotaph. And now, following completion of the initial phase, the volunteers that are referred to in the report have had additional unsolicited requests from families of surviving World War II veterans and families from veterans from other conflicts of the Canadian Armed Forces. So this funding here will support production of up to 20 additional banners for this year. I don't think we'll have any more than that, along with the associated mounting hardware and scissor lift rental. Again, the initial objective was met, and this is to, again, recognize surviving members or members from other conflicts.
Everybody knows them. It's a great program, Gary. I'll move the recommendation when you're ready, Madam Chairman.
Okay, wait, sorry, the windows are open, I don't wanna close them, the air conditioning is on and.
Effective with it,
Sure.
and I agree, like, this is a fantastic program, and the total $5,000 is a bargain. But if we're gonna be sort of responsible for this financially long-term, is there any way that we can use a system that uses the same hardware that we use for our banners?
We do,
Okay, so this is a
This is
digital hardware
because-
going
yeah.
on new poles?
yes,
Okay.
exactly, we do use our hardware. This is because it's getting so big, we're gonna need to expand. Yeah, so that's what the new hardware is for.
Okay, perfect. All right, so moved by Jim, seconded by Colin. All those in favor? That is approved. All right, and your last report, Gary?
Finally, this one is for, again, a memorial bench for Shandos Beach, that the Township of North Kawartha hereby approve the acceptance of a donated memorial bench to be installed on Shandos Beach property by the Parks and Recreation Department. So in the past, we have accepted donations of benches or picnic tables that have been put on township property for public use. Usually, there's a plaque affixed that has an engraving that recognizes or is in honor of the donor. This situation here, I've been approached by family and close friends of former seasonal residents on Shandos Beach, Shandos Lake actually. I'm told they had a really close sort of connection to Shandos Beach, and the family and friends would like to donate a bench in their honor. They would like to put it on the grassy area, looking out on Shandos Lake, and there might be a small plaque on there in honor of them. The company that they've contacted is one of the same companies that we've used for our benches and picnic tables in the past.
Okay.
We would install it.
Yeah.
But the cost would be theirs.
It's a great idea, and I think we've talked a little bit sort of informally, but are you guys working on some kind of a policy or anything with respect to sort of in memorial donations, or just, right? Because we've had a couple of things, and maybe not even just that, but people who want to like donate or support a particular thing, like a bench or a certain initiative.
That's a good question, Madam Mayor. It doesn't come up often.
Right.
There is certain delegation of powers.
Yeah.
However, I always think it's a good idea to bring this forth to council for their awareness, in case there's something that I've overlooked.
Yep, no, that's great. Ruth Ann, or who, did you have a question or no?
No, I'm just gonna move the recommendation.
That's all I was gonna do.
Okay, well, Ruth Ann's gonna move it. Jim, you can second it. All those in favor? That's approved. All right, thanks, Gary.
Thank you very much.
Great. Okay, and now we are up to finance, and it's the draft procurement policy, and our treasurer is here, Judy Everett. Good morning, welcome. Thank you. Let's talk about this policy.
This wonderful policy. It has taken a little bit of time to get prepared, but hopefully we're almost there. We're just looking for council's direction and which way they'd like to go, if they have recommended changes that we could look at. Basically, the only difference, we've incorporated the amending bylaws that came forward before, putting it up to 50,000 before a tender has to be issued, and the election issues that the clerk has authority to spend, to expense. And also the Buy Ontario Act is mentioned in there. So we didn't go into detail on that because of the ever-changing requirements in that. So we thought, put the Buy Ontario Act, so we will look at it at the time, watch for updates and address them as they come. So it's there. If there are any questions, Jason would be happy to answer them.
All right, throwing you under the bus. I'm sure there's probably gonna be questions, but is there any other comment? I don't know, like, she threw you, like, do you have any comments with that before we get into them, or? Yep.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
through you, Madam Mayor, if I may. When we were putting this together, we worked together, we talked about the Canadian strategy, buying Canadian strategy, but because it's evolving very quickly, we thought it would be better to address it through the Buy Ontario Act itself. We think that the ministry, I shouldn't say the ministry, they purposely done the act and they're gonna prescribe things through regulations just because regulations are quicker for them to administer. They're done through the minister himself or herself, and they can get them out quickly. So we thought if we reference the Buy Ontario Act, we are following the regulations in the act. We recently put out a tender for the, correct me if I'm wrong, RFP. Yeah, so it was an RFP for the upgrades to the medical center. And in that, we do ask for some of the requirements or all of the requirements in the regulations. So we asked for a supply chain management plan, self-attestation forms. So we are following the regulations. So we thought it would be easier and better for us to do it through the Buy Ontario Act and follow direction from the province of Ontario than to go out and do our own thing and maybe challenged on it.
Yeah, well, we're bound to follow the provincial legislation, that's gonna trump us, right? And anyway, so it makes sense, and referencing it, you know, and not kind of locking into anything sort of specific gives us the opportunity, because it is, yeah, you're right, like things are changing rapidly. So, okay, no, I get that. Any questions? You can start us off,
I've got a
Colin.
little list here.
No, you go right ahead.
You and give somebody else a chance.
No,
and they can come back and
no,
do
you
it.
get us started, I know you wanted to.
The first thing that jumped out at me when the emergency purchasing section, so 4.1A, I'm concerned that we don't have any ability to spend more than $50,000 on an emergency purchase. The department manager is given permission for $10,000 to $50,000, but I'm not sure where the authority for the CAO or anyone else to have a purchase over $50,000 would come from. You want me to answer?
Go ahead, yeah, we did discuss it.
We did discuss this in length, and I think staff, if I'm being completely candid, we feel the same way, that there should be a little bit greater ability by the CAO or in conjunction with the CAO and mayor in emergency purchases, so that we're not, you know, impeding ourselves or slowing down our process, because our process is a little slower than normal when it comes to emergency type relationships. So yes, we did talk about it. We do agree that we need something that's a little bit more robust in there, but we really were looking for direction from council on what that looks like. But I don't know if I can get my feedback at this point, like an emergency can get pretty darn expensive. So as much as I hate to have open-ended talks, it's kind of, I think it might be prudent in this situation.
Yeah, no, okay, Shannon.
I think Alana's gonna answer
Oh,
the same.
go ahead. Okay, no, well, I don't know, I just saw your hand first, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, either one of you.
Even in an emergency, you have the authority to be able to act over and above your procurement policy. Again, if you were in a state of emergency and you needed an emergency purchase, the group can proceed.
The other thing, and it's a good point, but I think, and I'm just trying to remember, and staff can correct me, but did we not make some changes when it comes to the ability to call special meetings of council? Because I still think, like, yeah, I get that too, like, we need to spend a certain amount of money to deal with it, but at the same time, I would still probably, as mayor, would be like reaching out to council, like, can we come together, like, you know, virtually or whatever, to have a discussion, because, you know, I mean, even if it was a $50,000 purchase, I'd still probably want to do that, right? Like, I think that, I understand like the necessity for it, but at the same time, I think that we could certainly address it, and I'd want to do it as openly and transparently as possible and have council buy-in and support of that too, right? So, okay, Lana.
So we did discuss that too, and that's what we were trying to balance. You know, in case of an emergency, would you have time to call that special meeting of council?
Yeah.
So that was kind of influencing what we were thinking about, a dollar amount that would be automatic, which wouldn't need to trigger a special meeting of council.
Right.
And then you can always have a special meeting of council. And I just wanted to also comment about, from an emergency management perspective, Buying groups are actually promoted as a, transparent way to do very quick purchasing, because that way, they've already sort of done the process on their end, and it is one of the things that they're looking at for emergency purchases, that you're not, RFPing or tendering.
Right.
If you have the authority, you can get something quickly, possibly through you or a different buying group.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And then, I can't remember what page it was on, but the modifications of contracts, there's something about we wouldn't accept any modification of contract that would increase the cost without any change in the scope of work. And I've long had concerns that puts us at risk with things like gravel and sand renewals, or we're paying more for recycling pickup because never mind, scratch recycling pickup.
Forget that.
But in the past, we've paid more when gas prices have gone up for waste pickup. And the scope of the work hasn't changed, and we're accepting modifications to the contract. So I have concerns with that being in the procurement policy.
Who wants to speak to that?
Jason? Sure, I can speak to it.
Sure.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I think we discussed this at length, and I think we were trying to make sure we were addressing more specifically change orders. First of all, we put a percentage threshold in. I think it was more of a guidance to staff to make sure that they're putting contingency allotments in their processes, because there are unforeseen things that happen. I think specifically, I might get you to ask your question one more time. Make sure I get the answer right here.
And so we're according to this procurement policy, and actually the ones we have existing, we're not supposed to accept any changes to the price of a contract without any changes to the corresponding scope of work.
Right. So, I think, I'm going to go back kind of to my background in public works, but once a contractor's locked in a price with us, a unit price, there really should be no changes to that unit price. So when we talk about amendments to a contract, we're more talking about something that maybe we missed in our process. So, maybe, they're doing a road, maybe we didn't include enough rock removal item because, we can only determine what we can see or what we have knowledge of. And sometimes when you start getting into some of these things, whether it's renovations or whatever, you come on, the contract will come upon an item that we didn't know, they didn't know.
Right.
And we're basically saying that if they want to do something, they need to have a process. We need to have a change order process. So it needs to come to us for approval. But we wanted to make sure that council is giving us that direction and this policy on what we can approve and what we cannot, and what has to come to council and what staff have the ability to do.
So can I just ask then, just thinking about that, so like when we were doing the renovation at 135 Burley Street, and Matt came to council a few times with different change orders, right? Because they discovered different things in the process of that construction. So like what you're looking to do is sort of streamline that, so potentially depending on what the threshold like is with respect to, I guess, the total contract, because it's 0% on their 15% threshold, it wouldn't necessarily, Matt might not have necessarily come to council to make those changes, or to get approval, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, if I may. Yes, that is what we're saying. We haven't necessarily as a municipality used penalty clauses in a lot of our documents, but sometimes we may want to do that. Specifically if we have something that requires a tight timeline. And we don't want to delay contractors, especially when we add those clauses into our bidding process. So that it is to streamline the process to say staff have certain authorities to administer these change orders up to a threshold.
Okay.
And then 9A, I'm almost through my list here.
That's okay.
Hard copy submissions. I prefer that people be able to submit things electronically through secure sources. I worry that this is gonna make it very hard if we want to post something on Merck's or one of those online portals that go province-wide, that we wouldn't get a good response by requiring people to be mailing in physical copies of everything. So I'd like to see some electronic submission availability there.
Okay. Lana?
We did talk about the option of whether we would accept electronic submissions, but concern for us was when you get your RFP and tenders all together and you open them at the same time, if they're being emailed, they're actually being received ahead of time. So while everyone has confidentiality in their work clause, you know, you're seeing some of that information ahead of the opening. If we had something like a, you know, maybe a bids and tender module that locked them in until a certain point in time, then you could kind of open them at that time and provide them to the group. So that was one of our concerns. And I don't know if Jeannie or Jason want to add to that, but we did talk about this in length. We do put it out electronically, the RFP and tender, but we've not accepted them other than hard copy in the past.
Is there a module, is there something, like, I mean, do you know of other municipalities, like, is this sort of standard operating procedure for most townships that we get it hard copies?
Some, yeah, I know there are other, there's bids and tenders or whatever. Some cost money. I think there's one, was it, that didn't? Something like that. So if we did go that route, yeah, it's not a hard copy, it's done through them. But if we're receiving them here, we do not want, it kind of opens it up, okay? If it's by email, you can look at it and then tell another bidder how much that bid, right? So that's why we're saying hard copy for these ones.
All right. Yep.
And under the exemptions, the only one that I had any difficulty with was web hosting, just because I think that's a really competitive process these days. And something that is easy to just get locked into constantly renewing and renewing and renewing, but I think in 2026, that's something that can be sort of explored every once in a while. And then in the GPO section, the group purchasing, sorry, I was a little concerned that the language actually allowed department managers to spend unlimited amounts of money without coming back to council and the CAO based on the way it was written.
Okay, where is that? Where's the wording that you were looking at?
That's 9G.
Okay.
Because it basically turns the procurement policy or procurement responsibilities and the policies back to the cooperative purchasing group, which means that we don't have our thresholds for RFP, RFQ, and I think technically somebody can spend as much as they want without coming back based on the way it's written.
Okay. It says where township may participate with other units of government, their agencies or public authorities in cooperative purchase ventures when the best interests of the township will be served. Department managers have the authority to participate in group purchasing opportunities such as but not limited to, and then it lists the vendor of record, Ontario Education, LAS, Canoe, Kinetic. But the thresholds of the, like, go ahead, Alana, sorry.
Jason, do you want to go ahead? I think it's because it's within the budget.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I can go ahead. If the specific wording isn't in there, we would definitely don't mind adding that specific wording, but I think what Alana was alluding to is right. Staff intention was that we still follow the process of the procurement policy, even when it comes to GPOs. So anything that was outside of the thresholds addressed in the policy throughout, that we would have to bring those back and get the approval, the proper approvals, even for those group purchasing organizations. And I think really what the intent of staff was just to make sure that we had approval to participate in these group purchasing organizations just for the value added service that they offer the municipality. Essentially, we're getting, I'll use a hypothetical example of where we might want to procure chainsaws. We get the value of that group purchasing, but we can direct it to our local services. So if we were buying a Stihl chainsaw, we would reach out to the Stihl rep through one of these GPOs, and then we would direct them that we want to purchase it through one of our local vendors. So I think that's what the intention is, but if the wording's not clear, we don't mind revisiting it to make sure that the wording is clear.
So that's what I'm wondering, so should the wording, how would you want that to be worded in, like, in that particular portion, or should it be addressed in another part of the policy? Elena?
And I think we're also looking at, what the limits are. This was mentioned as ceiling, because something like the fire apparatus, if we were going through canoe, it was already approved in capital forecast and budget. You could just order it directly.
Yeah.
Go through, check out your best price and order it without it ever really circling back to council. Council already approved it in capital forecasting, approved it in budgeting.
Right.
The funds are already there. So that's kind of the other extreme end of what that purchase could look like.
Right.
So if council would prefer to have a ceiling in place, if it's, something that's already budgeted, that's 50,000 or less, we already mentioned how department managers have that 10,000 to 50,000 area. Just more food for thought for how you want to apply your wording.
So even if we've approved it in the budget that we're purchasing, like say it's a fire truck or whatever, and if it comes within the budget amount, we could just, so it wouldn't be coming back to council to say, okay, like what we kind of, with the exercise that we went through earlier. But we'd still want, would that be made part of like the consent agenda, sort of like report, like, hey, FYI, we bought the truck, right? Like.
If I may.
Yeah.
I think, through you, Madam Mayor, I think the intention and what Elena's alluding to is maybe instead of going through a formal RFT or RFP process, the council would still have the decision, would still make the decision on those larger purchases that exceed the thresholds in here.
Right.
But do we need to formally issue an RFT or an RFP, or can we just, streamline that process through some of these? I can't specifically talk to some of them because I'm just starting to investigate. There's more group purchasing opportunities opening up.
Yeah.
But specifically canoe, if we want to use a hypothetical situation with the pumper, I think there was 9 offerings through canoe, through apparatus. And so it would have, and where we only received 2 bids through our normal process, it would have given us a bit more ability to bring more options to the table for council to consider.
Okay. But at the same time, because we have the whole thing about the Buy Ontario, like we want it, like that's got to trump sort of everything, right? So like we got to ensure that the group purchasing is compliant with the Buy Ontario, right? Go ahead.
If I may again, Madam Mayor.
Keep going.
So I'm just like, so anytime there's an update to the registry, we're subscribed, so I get an email alert. So I know if there's a regulation change coming through Buy Ontario. Right now, Buy Ontario is specific to 2 regulations. One is construction type ventures, which we're doing through the medical center. The other one's fleet purchasing, but that fleet purchasing only covers 1500 series light duty trucks and SUVs. It doesn't apply to some of these other offerings like pumper trucks or anything of this nature because there's just no availability. So the province is being strategic in their regulations and what they're directing us to do. But it wouldn't cover some of these items that we've been discussing today. And if there is a change, I guess, by adding that Buy Ontario clause in our policy, we're saying that we're keeping up to date on that. We will follow that direction, and we will make sure that as staff that we include that information in the council reports. So the one coming through from the health building is part of the evaluation criteria for that when those submissions come in, that they meet those requirements through the regulations.
Okay. Did you? Yep. Or Shannon. Sorry.
Thank you. I read through this, but not as thoroughly as I'd like, but I think what I'm reading is it's just asking for the procedure. So if you were, for example, we're doing a collective purchase through the county, they would look after the procedure. There would be a group of municipalities. You would still have your same approval process. So the group would collectively, but it would be their process.
Right.
So their process would go through and a report should, if it's over the $50,000 threshold, still come back to council to say, here's the results. this is what it was done through, and you have the opportunity to accept or deny. That's what I'm reading, because it's just saying process, it's not saying financial.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
I just wonder how we bypass our competition requirements then. If we're not overriding our RFP requirements, and if we're still using our own policies, wouldn't we still need to go out for an RFP after deciding that we want this canoe purchase?
Yeah, go ahead. No.
Sorry, if I may, I
It's a good discussion.
believe every municipality and upper tier and organization must have a procurement policy. This policy is allowing us to, one of the groups, this is being listed as a group purchasing opportunity. It's saying in these circumstances, because collectively and historically, group purchase has been a lot, it's been a financial benefit. So you're given the authority to whatever group is taking the lead. Sometimes there could be an opportunity where it may be North Kawartha is the lead and 5 other municipalities are coming with North Kawartha. I'm just saying that's the way this is reading to me.
Good morning. Okay, what's on your list next?
We're pretty well almost domestic preference. So I know that we have the Buy Ontario, but if we're just gonna say we're gonna meet whatever Buy Ontario says, as it says in the document, we have to do that anyway. If we want the opportunity to be able to advantage Ontario Canadian suppliers, we do need a separate domestic preference clause. It's easier to separate it into things that are below trade agreement thresholds. I think the lowest for us would be the Ontario-Quebec. And then it gets a little trickier once you get above it, but we can still advantage certain groups geographically, legally, once we get above thresholds. So I think there's opportunity to add the domestic preference clause, and then just because it's technical, but I think we should get to it, 3.8 kind of jumped from B to E in the list, so we need C and D in there. That was the final note I had.
Those were the secret clauses.
Yeah.
Okay, Alana.
Could I go back to the one that was in the automatic renewals about the website that you highlighted?
Oh, the exemption?
Yeah, the exemption.
What section was that? It was down.
Internet, and so Appendix A.
Yeah. And it was D, there's a DD, it should be E.
Okay. So yeah, the internet and or web hosting ongoing supplies. I also think maintenance of infrastructure, that's a pretty big thing to leave completely open, our technical infrastructure being able to be replaced without the procurement bylaw.
Maybe put this over to Judy a little bit, but maybe we need to define those a little bit differently or separately, but in some cases, we really don't have a lot of choice in our provider. And we're just renewing those regular agreements, so I don't know if we want to have a look at that with Mackenzie and come back maybe with perhaps some updated wording. Do you have any concerns with those particular items?
We'll have a look, see if we can maybe word it a little better.
Okay. And change it so it's section E or subsection or whatever. So that this is a DD. Go ahead, Jason.
If I may, that was my fault. I was the one that formatted it.
Okay, so we're gonna defer for formatting changes. Yeah, but that addition, and then I'm just thinking of, did you want to look at wording for a domestic preference clause as well? Yep.
I've got to be honest, staff went back and forth on this a bunch of times.
Right.
We ended up putting the Buy Ontario clause in because we felt if the province wanted us to do more or something different, they would direct us to do that. And that's why we just referenced the Buy Ontario clause.
Okay.
Essentially, that's their legislation that they've created to guide municipalities in purchasing and giving preference to Canadian or Ontario models. So I guess what I'm saying is we're not adverse to it, but that's why we did it the way we did it.
Alana?
I'm just thinking back to, how we were gonna implement that as well. We were looking at, each RFP or tender, if you're going that route, has a grid for scoring. So we could look at what percentage we're putting to the Buy Ontario portion. I think we could discuss that as well. That might be an area to capture it in the scoring.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
And I agree that's a good opportunity, but I feel like that actually ties our hands more, because if we've got it in the scoring and then somebody does manage to tie or beat them based on our Buy Ontario scoring, but it's not a situation where we want to give a domestic preference, having just a generic domestic preference may be given in the procedural or the procurement bylaw may be safer than putting it right in numbers in the application, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a couple of changes. I know you guys were making notes. We're gonna do some. So I don't think we're gonna approve this right today, but I'd like it, bring it back and kind of flesh out that wording a little bit. But I think overall, my thinking is that we're trying to balance a number of priorities, right? And always sort of the main thing is the cost, right? We really we're spending taxpayers' dollar. We really want to get the best value for money, but at the same time, recognizing the the kind of the buy local, support local, or Ontario or Canadian or whatever. I mean, given the political environment we're now in around the world. But I also think it's about streamlining and efficiency. We want to ensure that that we have good processes in place that aren't onerous or burdensome. And I think it's important that we make sure that we have a procurement policy that gives sort of that ability, that efficiency, or that flexibility, but doesn't totally give away everything, where it's there's no oversight or anything. It's just you guys blank check, go for it, right? So it's a balancing act, and like I said, I mean, we know the environment is changing constantly, and I'm sure right now, I mean, they're saying that you've got putting the Buy Ontario Act in there makes sense, but like you said, it's only on a couple of things right now, but I'm sure more stuff is going to be coming forward, right? And we'll need to make sure that that we're covered on that. So Jim.
This is a moving document, it's never gonna be perfect. When I read it, I was willing to make the motion today to approve it. If we have to do a few little
Yep.
tweak on it, then let's defer it for those tweaks.
Okay. Jason?
I'm just, maybe if we could get some clarity on the items that we want to adjust, just because it might save the effort of bringing this back multiple times. So if we could go through and maybe be specific on what direction council wants to give staff on the items that we want to change.
Yep.
And then we will do our best, we will make our best effort to bring it back ready to pass.
So, okay, so sort of the clerical stuff, make sure the numbering and the letters and all of that, but it was also about the wording around the website and the IT, hardware, software kind of thing, right, to clear. And then there was about the group purchasing as well. There was sort of clearing that language up a little bit more. I'm just trying to think of what else there was.
The emergency dollar limit.
The emergency dollar amount too. Yeah.
And I think this is, maybe we need to hear from other members of the council, do we want a domestic preference clause? It doesn't have to be a preference will, a preference may be given, and give us that flexibility.
As far as I'm concerned, staff has put an awful lot of time and effort into this, and they've done a wonderful job. As I say, it's never going to be perfect, but I don't have anything that I would say has to be changed on it.
Okay. Good there,
I could agree though, and add the domestic preference, maybe.
A may, not a shall.
Not a shall.
If I may, if that's what council is directing us to do, then there's going to be quite a few edits to the policy. Because I don't think it's just simply adding the clause. We have to have some kind of a way that we're going to evaluate whether a company's Canadian, so we would have to do some kind of because the process has to be fair, we have to disclose everything up front.
Yep.
And so we would have to do, you know, a domestic supply chain plan document that they would have to fill out, some self-attestation forms that they're saying that they are Canadian. And I want to be clear that we could be challenged on some of those items. So I'm just throwing out comments out there, but I don't think it's just adding that clause. I think it's adding that clause with some other items.
Okay. All right, I can see that.
So I mean, I'm fine with just leaving it as the Buy Ontario for now, because like I said, I think this landscape is changing and evolving.
I was gonna say, and my concern is he's gonna change it as soon as we get something that matches that, right? So better in.
No, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
So what happened in the last 2 weeks that changed everybody's mind on this? We were gonna spend 12-13% more on a fire truck. I know we ended up going a different direction, but do we no longer have the desire to support Canadian industry, or what changed in the last 2 weeks?
So, yeah, go ahead.
This morning was pretty simple, legal. And we don't have anything in our policy now that says buy Canadian or buy Ontario or buy anything. So you got no leg to stand on. Now you're gonna put legs on it.
But we're not.
Yeah.
And you're deciding not to.
Buy
No.
Ontario.
And I will say that at the discussion at the previous meeting when we talked about the pumper, not all of us were in favor of spending an extra $75,000 on a truck. I mean, like I said, like that's the challenge that we have as elected representatives, and we're you know, taking care of the tax purse strings, right? It's that, you know, it's that, you know, folks want us to, you know, spend more money and buy Canadian and you know, pay increased costs, or do we want the value for the dollar? And I think it's one of those things where, I mean, most parties usually like the bottom line is the dollar usually that motivates most people. However, I think there's certainly a shift happening in sort of the court of public opinion when it comes to these things. So we need, and that's why there is the Buy Ontario Act now, right? Because, you know, we're recognizing that. But like I said, I wasn't in favor of spending the extra money on that pumper, and we couldn't just go ahead and do that anyway, like as Jim pointed out. So that's where we're at right now. I'm comfortable with this document, like sort of what you brought, like the main points of it and everything. I think it makes a lot of sense, but I do think there are a few tweaks that need to be made. So I don't think we can approve it today, but we need it to be brought back. So is there anything else?
What they're asking for is the exact tweaks that you want.
Well, we did. We gave them a list so far of like there's the GPO.
What's on the list? What's on the list?
Alana's got it.
So what I'm hearing from that most recent discussion is that we're leaving the Buy Ontario clause in, but not adding the permissive.
No,
Yeah.
clause.
Not adding
The
domestic.
last clause that Council McLennan brought up.
Yeah.
Because the important thing is that when the policy comes back, that there's clear direction for staff on how to interpret council's direction, what council's looking for, and how do we apply it and bring it back here.
Right. But we're talking about wording around the website and the IT software and hardware. It was the GPO stuff.
So wording.
Yep.
Okay.
So clearing that out, some wording around the group purchasing as well, that section of it to make it a little bit more clear, that we're in compliance with our own procedure or policy, and some of the clerical stuff too, just kind of go through it to make sure. I don't know if there's anything else. I know Judy, everybody was writing down some stuff. I mean, and obviously if there's things in your review that you're seeing that you think that, you know, can be tweaked a little bit or adjusted, you're gonna bring that back as well, right? So, are we good on that? Okay, can I have a motion then to defer the approval of the draft procurement policy to allow for some further edits and updates? Moved by Ruth Ann, seconded by Jim. All those in favor? That is deferred. All right, thank you for that. I'm gonna call for a 5-minute break, because I didn't take a break all the other times. Sorry.
Since you're not gonna have to deal with it.
Who's gonna fall off? All right, and welcome back, everyone. And we're on to administration reports, and the first up is short-term rental advisory committee final recommendations. And our economic development officer Edward is here. Good morning, Edward. Welcome. Thank you for your patience.
Good morning. So for the first report, the purposes of this report is to present the public feedback regarding the short-term rental advisory committee's final recommendation and to seek council's directions regarding the next steps. So as council is aware, the SREC committee has finalized its recommendations, and council asked for public feedback on those recommendations. We used the Township's Engage platform to gather feedback between March 17th and May 31st. As well, a public open house was held on May 23rd at the NKCC. Staff received various feedback regarding a broad range of perspectives regarding the recommendations. Comments included support for increased regulation and oversight, concerns regarding neighborhood impacts, and comments also emphasizing the economic benefits of short-term rentals to tourism, local businesses, and property owners. The engagement period was extended to May 31st, so after the open house that we had, they give the opportunity for additional public input, but no written feedback was submitted either at the open house or afterwards. So with that said, staff is now looking for direction regarding the short-term rental advisory committee's recommendations. I will point out that staff has provided input to the committee, I would say on an ad hoc basis, as specific issues were brought forward by the committee, whether that be planning or bylaw related, etc. But staff hasn't provided a full feedback of the recommendations at this point that have been submitted to council. So at this point, again, that there wasn't clear direction for staff at this point. That the recommendations have been provided and input on those recommendations has been submitted to council.
Okay, so you're looking for some direction from us. I just wanted to say a couple things, because we did have this report come forward, and discussion, but this was prior to the open house. I'm doing the, because there was another survey you guys did at the beginning, I think, of your committee as well. But I just want to acknowledge, because, like I said, I think it's a great report, and certainly very detailed, very thorough, and that the fact that there's kind of a stage sort of with the implementation of things, and sort of one feeds into the other, with like you do this first, and then if that, you know, depending on that, then you go to the next or whatever. But council has already kind of done a couple of things. We did the Good Neighbor Guide, which I think is excellent. I think we published that last year. It's a great thing, and it's a tool that can be used by everybody, sort of the one-stop shopping thing. And then also the fact that we're already looking at the AMPs for a variety of bylaw sort of enforcement and infractions and stuff like that. So I think those two things, I mean, I'm pleased with. I think it makes a lot of sense. But that's, like I said, it's sort of overall, it's, you know, it's an impact, or, you know, it's impactful to our entire community, not a particular portion of it. So I just wanted to make those couple of comments, because I do want to be clear, if we're going to, if council wants to get into some discussion specifically with respect to regulating short-term rentals, I have declared a pecuniary interest in the past because I operate a commercial accommodation business. So if that's the direction you guys want to go in, I am happy to declare and remove myself, and Jim can lead the discussion on this. So is that something you guys want to discuss? Like,
my only comment is, so upper level, I think you can stay for it.
Okay.
It's basically just a summary of what I feel the document means, the
Okay.
ones that the committee prepared.
okay. If I get a little vibe, I'm gonna jump out. Go ahead.
I just think the intent of the document is to start to target bad behavior. You don't want to target individuals, because then you're targeting individuals that aren't behaving badly. So it was an attempt to target the behavior and address the very real concerns that some members of the community do have, but without targeting people that aren't behaving badly. And I think that's the right way to start, and then get progressive from there. So I'm pleased with it.
Okay.
Great. I think this is gonna follow its own course. As you say, we've already got the education. We're working on the, the fines for all the different categories and so on and so forth. It sounds like the number of complaints and all that stuff doesn't line up with the number of people who are concerned about it. Let's see how this plays out, and let's not get into a bunch of permitting and fines and all that stuff until we see, hey, this is getting out of hand. We've got to do something about this, and we've got all the things here to go ahead and implement. Very well done. So I don't know. I think it's going to follow itself, and anybody who's read this whole thing knows that hey, this, and even in their own conclusions that if you need this, then put it in. If you don't need it, you're not getting the complaints or you're not getting the thing, then leave it alone. Okay, that's my opinion.
All right, Ruth Ann.
I'm ready to just go through the way we have it written in there, and I'm hopeful we never have to hit stage 6.
Yeah.
I think we've hired a bylaw officer, another bylaw officer to enforce, and I think we need to do that. That bad behavior, it's a big problem I think we have.
So is it basic, so I guess, because everyone, as I said, is looking for direction, staff are looking for direction when it comes to, it's like, we are just receiving the report and leaving it at that?
Well, sorry.
Okay.
If I hear kind of some of the feedback, one potential option is that if council is satisfied with stage 1 and gathering information, is that staff could come back with a report in the fall. We would have another summer of short-term rentals. I know Matt is working on the AMPS changes as well, but that could be the first step, as along with stage 1 being education, is also a follow-up report in the fall on short-term rentals and the concerns I brought up, and council at that point to decide on moving forward to say stage 2 if they felt that changes were required or needed at that point.
Okay, makes good sense. I'm surprised you brought it up.
Anyway, so
we're on tape.
that's never stopped you before, Jim. So do you want to make that, so just basically a motion is that we receive it and that further that staff continue to monitor and, report back in the fall if there's any changes or updates that are required.
Okay, I move.
Jim moves it. Is there a seconder for that? Colin will second it. All those in favor? That is approved. Okay. Thank you. And up next is council and staff use of artificial intelligence AI policy. And you're here.
I actually have, there's one more.
Oh, pardon. Oh, no, pardon. I went ahead, sorry. Electrical vehicle, pardon me, sorry. I don't want to get too far ahead. Yes. Okay, go ahead, Edward, sorry. It's like, what are you doing here for AI?
Thank you. So the second report I have is regarding the results of the EV charging survey that we conducted between January 29th and March 31st of this year. Also note that was our first use of the Engage platform. So we were satisfied with the responses that we got, 172 responses to the survey. So we're very, great to see the feedback on that. We've got a good turnout in terms of feedback from both year-round residences, about 52%, and seasonal residents, cottagers, so 42. So the only things that we were missing from that survey is really from our visitors, tourists, and with only 8% of our 8 responses, or 4.7%. So that is something in terms of looking at additional information for the tourist visitor economy, because we do see that especially other surrounding jurisdictions like Haliburton County, Hastings County do a lot with in terms of marketing EV chargers from a tourism perspective. I think some of the key findings from the survey that 28% of respondents already own a battery electric vehicle, now they're 32% saying that they plan to purchase one. Among those that don't own an EV, that lack of local charging infrastructure was identified as one of the key barriers in terms of future adoption.
Many respondents also highlighted that private charging is not always straightforward at their property. That's, due to either limitations of service or their water access only properties, and they can't charge where they leave their vehicle. In terms of the public input, in terms of a specific location, so the NKCC and the parking lot at 143 Burley is being the most popular selected location. And in terms of preference of charger type, that there's a strong support for the fast charging in terms of in that 30 to 60 minute range. From an economic development perspective, about 38% of respondents say that EV chargers would lead them to spend more time in the community. Well, they spend more time in the community. 26% said they would visit more often, so we can start to see those economic development benefits of EV chargers. So with this report at this point in time and going through the process, so we did start to see, especially with the NKCC, that sort of being one of the key locations, that there are some operational constraints that staff need to bring forward in a separate report, particularly with the location identified, which is also the current snow storage area at the NKCC, but that'll come forward in a separate report. Also, with the 143 Burley project, we are, as part of the specifications, roughing in both for level 2 and level 3 chargers. So if there's a grant opportunity or other opportunity to put in chargers, that will be as part identified in part of the scope of the project already. So within this report itself, clarifying that we're not bringing forward a specific grant application or anything today, just that staff is looking to move forward with a more, I would say, thorough EV charging infrastructure strategy in terms of identifying locations and specific electrical and other operational constraints that might be identified if we were looking at putting in chargers today, could flow into CapEx planning for future years down the road. Along with that, especially if we look at multiple locations. And then again, staff will keep on top of any funding opportunities, but as well, we said that the staff have been reached out about potential either public-private partnerships or exploring the opportunities that have been utilizing through a public utility for EV chargers as well. So the township buying and owning the infrastructure is not necessarily the only way to deliver EV chargers within the community as well. So I just want to highlight that. But again, with the I would say, looking through all the comments that we got, which was very thorough, I'm happy to answer any questions from council on the survey results.
All right, Jim, starts off.
With $10,000 incentive on buying these things and so on and so forth, is there no money out there at all for chargers from different places? Or is there an urban one and we don't get it in the rural or anything?
So the federal government just had opened another grant application. It went, but the dates were between June 8th and I believe June 22nd was the application period. So I, again, got the notification about that, but I'm very confident with both the provincial and federal governments in terms of their, both governments looking at, moving to EV chargers or EV vehicles, in expanding that sector in Canada, that there'll be ongoing opportunities from both levels of government in terms of grant opportunities, but as well, I think it's important to look at both, what is the best model in terms of bringing the chargers here and the operational aspect, whether we own and operate, whether we have a private-public partnership, have a private company maybe potentially lease the space from us, that there are a couple other models as well to explore in terms of the EV chargers themselves and just the township owning and operating them as well.
The Japanese one are only 5-minute charge, and they'll put one in for you. You just have to buy a few cards.
Let's just do that. Okay. Add them to the fleet. Anybody else? Questions or comments? Go ahead.
I don't even think we need to go through the entire process of going back out for general feasibility studies for multiple properties. I think the downtown location with the businesses right adjacent to it really is the best. I know that there's some data in the survey that suggests people also do like the community center, but I think that's also based on the fact that there isn't a parking lot at 143 right now, and it's just kind of a dust bowl. So if there is a nicer parking lot there, that may change people's responses. And I think it's worth going ahead with a feasibility study, make sure that it's possible before spending too much time, but just focusing on that one property. And I guess the only other thing I would add, because I've seen it in a few comments, unless we need to add one level 2 for grant purposes, I prefer just to see all level 3 chargers there. I think by the time that they get put in, level 2 is going to be a thing of the past, and having used level 2 in public before, it's not the most effective way to try to keep your vehicle going.
But it'll be addressing the cost of those level 3s, right? And that whole issue around like with the peak demand or whatever it is, right? But a couple of things, and I agree, I think we've already planned that for the parking area there, that infrastructure is going in, right? But also we know, and this comes again to sort of strategic planning and forecasting, but you know, in 2028, the plan is for the county to do the reconstruction of Burleigh Street, where we need to look at a bunch of things when it comes to our downtown, and that's about accessibility, walkability, you know, the infrastructure, like the charging or whatever, and how far do we go, and thinking about things for the future. So like the daycare, right? We need a sidewalk that basically goes from one side, from the daycare, which the old Trinity United Church, which will be become the daycare, all the way up here to the school. But not only that, like I mean, this is all things we need to discuss, but we have the 65 acres, which, you know, we want to develop, and we don't want that to be an isolated part of our community that can only drive into town because there's no sidewalk, right? But maybe it's along the same lines too, is like, we need to think a little bit further, so when that construction happens, are there other opportunities along this corridor to put in infrastructure for EV charging? Like, are we gonna wanna have EV charging on those 65 acres? Do they wanna have EV charging at the daycare? I don't know, right? Public-private partnership, you know, like, you know, when they're ripping things up, does Sayers want to put in a couple of EV chargers? Is there an opportunity for us there? I know on the highway, some of the businesses have talked about it, but the cost is prohibitive right now. So it's important for us to be on our toes, basically, and be kind of, do the work and be prepared. Be prepared not only to do our own investing, but to see how we can work with sort of some of the businesses in our community as well to support them and their ability to add this infrastructure, because like you said, then you're gonna get the visitors for sure, right? Because you got, if they're on the highway and they see it, they know about, they can come in, but even there, like they could stop someplace along there, they're at Mikey D's and they can charge, you know, we're at Shoreline Furniture Co. and they can charge, right? Like I think there's, and certainly with what's happening right now with the US-Iran war and the price of gas and everything, like, I mean, there's a lot more people, like, who maybe in the past were like, I'm never gonna get an EV vehicle, they're like, well, maybe I am, right? And with the Fed, the idea they wanted, like, was it like increase our electrical generating capacity by 50%, like nationally, like, I mean, there's a lot of big things kind of, you know, out there being said and sort of plans and sort of intentions. I mean, how we get there remains to be seen, but things are changing, and it's important for us to be prepared.
Yeah, on that, you know, I looked into buying an electric car, and for $750 I can get a level 2 charger to do at home. Why is the cost so different for what we want to do with a level 2 charger?
No, it's level 3.
I know, but we priced level 2s, didn't we? Weren't they very expensive?
A level 2 charge is a couple $1,000. There are some differences between, I would say, residential grade versus commercial grade in terms of the thickness of the gauge of the cable and the components. The commercial ones, of course, have the interface for payment and everything as well that you wouldn't have in a residential charger as well. So that's why the resident are in more a couple $1,000 range, but mostly it's the hardware components and the payment functionality on the aspects versus a residential level 2 charger. Where the significant costs were is with the level 3 chargers, where it's into the tens of thousands and for the very large ones into the hundreds of thousands of dollars for the the quick charge, super, 100 kilovolt and higher on those level 3s, and you get into those costs.
Okay. Anything else?
To receive the report.
Well, no, there's more.
More?
Well,
Okay, go ahead.
like, no, I'm just saying, like, there's more than just receiving, like, the recommendation talks about doing a feasibility, assessment, including site analysis, funding opportunities, and I think, like, we still wanna do that, but focus it on the main corridor, for right now, cause I mean, like, there's also, like, I don't wanna get ahead of myself, we have the public hearing, or last meeting for the development down in Woodview, I mean, so keep that in our minds as well, because we have a community, like the community center and the library there, like, is there an opportunity there? Like, all of these things, right? I'm not sure when they're doing construction on Northeast Bay Road next. It doesn't necessarily have to be linked with county construction, but I mean, if things are getting revved up, why wouldn't we? That's our opportune time to kind of do this kind of thing. So I think that, I think if you are okay, like, are you understanding sort of the direction that we're thinking of, what to focus on in terms of?
I think, the staff would have clear direction on to continue to move forward with the EV chargers.
Okay, all right, so a motion to move the recommendation, is that cool?
Is the recommendation specific enough?
Well, I think based on the discussion, that's what I was saying, is like, are you cool with what we've talked about, that that we want to focus on?
Okay, yeah.
Right, so,
I'll move that.
okay, perfect. Seconded by Ruth Ann, all those in favor? That's approved, or received and directed. Okay, and now we're doing AI? Yes, are you staying for this, Edward, or are you getting out of here?
I'll listen.
You're running away, no, okay, let's get into council and staff use of artificial intelligence. And I do want to say, I've met with Alvena and Jason, and then Shannon yesterday too, but we've had some discussion about priorities and different things, and one of my big ones was like, whoo, AI. We need to figure something out, like, this is something that is, like, it is evolving super quickly, and I think I even said, it's intimidating and intoxicating at the same time, right? So, but yeah, it's a challenge that everybody is sort of dealing with or whatever, so I appreciate that, when I said that, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's a report on our agenda with a draft, so thank you for that. I appreciate the quick turnaround, but Jason, this was your baby, so you wanna take us through it?
Yeah, I can. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, I won't get into a great deal of detail on my report, but the report really is discussing, it's discussing a frame, I guess I'm gonna call it the input. So the input on the bylaw and policy came from some direction or a framework that was created by the Eastern Ontario IT directors through, I believe it was the EOWC.
Yep.
As well as a bit of a presentation that Peterborough County IT did on, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think County IT is kind of approving in principle Copilot. So that's kind of why we've addressed Copilot in here. I have received quite a bit of feedback in regards to that specific clause, but I think we have addressed it, so we can kind of walk through it in the bylaw and the policy.
Okay.
So essentially what we're saying is, and then the reason we applied it to council, and we wanted to be very clear that we're not administering that relationship with council. We're just including council in the bylaw and the policy. And it's just because council shares networks with us and some of our infrastructure with us. But, if there was an issue where council's, done something they shouldn't, that's not for us to administer, that's through other processes.
Right.
So we wanted to be clear on that. When we talk about I guess the biggest feedback I had is Copilot the only AI we're allowed to use? And we're really saying no, that if it was something that was already approved, it's still approved.
Right.
And we're really talking about AI in general use. And we mentioned Copilot because you've probably seen that almost every Microsoft platform we have has a Copilot feature in it. When we did a bit of a poll on staff, a lot of staff didn't know what it did. That made it more, I guess, created a bit of urgency for us to get something out there to make sure that we talk about how it can be used, what it can be used for, and what information can be put into it. So that's really what we're trying to address in this policy. And we also wanted to make it very adaptable. So that's why we talk about there be a separate administrative policy that will deal with staff. We will draft something, it talks about training, and we will circulate that policy to council as well once we have it ready. But it'll deal more specifically with training and pilots and the governance team, what the responsibilities of that team, all of that stuff will be laid out in the administrative portion of the policy. So if I'm, well, I'm open to questions anyway, but if I'm not clear on that, just please ask me.
Yep.
Because I'm not sure that everybody's on the same level or understanding when it comes to AI and what it does, what it's capable of, and what we're trying to control. And really our focus on this policy was human first, human last. So we've addressed that a few times. We talk about human in the loop, but it means that it's going to be human inputs and human verification or outputs before anything gets released to the public, to council. And we want to make sure that we're doing that too because of privacy concerns. So when we put this policy together, I talked about that framework from the EOIT, Peterborough County, but we also, the Privacy Commissioner's Office had a document on AI, so that was reviewed and implemented in this policy. We talked about some other outside agencies, which we think we've covered in the policy, whether it be the Human Rights Commission. We think we've addressed that through the inputs and outputs section, guiding principles. But yeah, I'm really open to discussion on it. If there's questions, and any questions, please feel free.
Okay. I'm just gonna start off just because
Go ahead.
Okay, well, I guess what the specifics you talked about, the co-pilot thing, and I will say like that's been my only sort of like active experience. I haven't done ChatGPT. My girls are like, they've banned it. They hate ChatGPT because of the environmental thing, and that's another thing I wanted to get into. But so it's only been through here, right, that I've used it, and that's why I say like it's kind of intimidating but intoxicating at the same time, because I found it has been certainly helpful and yeah, improved efficiency for me on some things. I've only used it a handful of times. So that being said, I just noticed, and I don't know if it was recently with an update, but now with Adobe, every time I'm opening up one of your PDF reports, I've got this AI assistant popping up and stuff like, and it's like, X, get out of here. Like, I don't want you to summarize this. Like, I want to read it myself. Come on back. So, and that's why I was thinking about, like, at the end of the day, like, is that an approved thing? Is that, it's not Microsoft, it's Adobe, but is that something that, you know, would be a tool that we could use? Because then there's also the inadvertent thing. Like, every time you go on Google now, there's like an AI overview that pops up all of a sudden, right? A lot of different things. And I think it's just like remembering too, like, what are the good ones versus what are the bad ones? And I think it has to come down, I'm not an expert, right? But it's that whole, like, whether it has like that persistent memory or retains all of that information. And I think the thing about Copilot is it is pretty secure and it doesn't have that kind of memory, right? So you're not getting into, you know, like something where it's hanging on to stuff and it's like, and then it's there forever. And then just the other thing I was thinking about, like with the environmental impact, because we're seeing a lot of that right now, like have the outcry over the data centers and all of that stuff, right? And even, like I said, it's, you know, when I look at my kids and they're so into technology and everything and they love it, but even for them to be pushing back on this and saying, don't, right? Like, be very careful, and it has a huge environmental impact, whether or not that's something that we want to, I mean, even to acknowledge within our guiding principles, or just that we're aware of it, that at the same time, you know, like we use this, but we gotta know that the impact that it is having. So those are just a couple of things that I have, but like I said, I am not an expert, and I also think that this is a policy that's going to be changing and evolving as well, because it just seems like all the things that AI can do, right? Like, it's like, whoa, it's limitless, and I don't know how we keep ahead of it, but I would certainly love some training and some education. You know, and I was with staff and with council too, like, I mean, we got an IT guy, you guys, like, I think it's really important for us to get to understand it more, and like you said, even with staff weren't even aware of what it was or what it could do, it's just like, we can't, you know, ignorance maybe is not necessarily blissful when it comes to AI, right? We need to be aware, right?
I'm a little more concerned that staff didn't realize they were using it. Like, is that the case?
No, so if I
It's
may
just that
through-
they didn't realize what it was when they saw it on the, okay.
if I may through the mayor, I think there was just, some, I mean, you see the co-pilot button, the, I don't know what you wanna call it, almost like a toggle or whatever.
Yeah.
You see it in there, but I think it was varying degrees of the understanding of what it was and what you could use it for.
Okay.
We mentioned co-pilot because, I mean, whether we mean to or not, we inherently trust Microsoft. I mean, we create closed session documents in their Word program, so we inherently trust them with certain things.
Right.
So that's why we mentioned it, but we still want to make sure that there's guidance through that program, what can be input into that, with an understanding that what you put into AI stays in AI. It's hard to retrieve it back out.
Right.
So we want to make sure there was guidance on the inputs and outputs.
But even with that, because there is a delete thing.
You might be deleting it, but I'm not sure you're deleting it from the
Yeah,
AI
it's like a deal that's
servers
forever.
themselves. That's why we
Right.
want to be very cautious about how we're using it and what we include. And I don't think it's onerous. I mean, some of the things we're talking about is, you know, you delete the name out. You can use something generic as your input, and it'll prompt you on the output and leave a blank space for you to fill in after. But it's really, we don't want prompts going in there that use names, phone numbers, you know, certain secure and privileged information.
Well, and I think that's what I'm saying about like the importance of the guidance in training, is because even knowing the right questions to ask, because if you're not very clear, I like, there's opportunities for things to kind of creep into what it feeds back to you that you're like, wait, I didn't even ask that, but not even aware, like I didn't even ask the question properly to get like the answer that I just, yeah, as I said, like I am, yeah, you know, I'm all for this, and as I said, I am definitely wanting to learn and understand more, so.
And I think this is also gonna be a major expense in the future, as they're starting to get into the tokens and actually starting to charge the businesses that are relying heavily on it. It would have been a great opportunity to have vested preference clauses in our procurement bylaw, but that's just me. For data storage, are we able to request that our data be stored in Canada, or is that considered discriminatory?
Well, if I may through the, I think that's a good question. I think some of these things will be done through the administrative piece, which you'll see coming out, I hope, in the very near future. But yeah, I think when we talk about specific new vendors, we're not really discussing the ones that we have. So if you're asking about Copilot, we could, if they have that type of relationship in Canada, we could ask that. But we would discuss that more in the pilots, I think. So in the administrative policy that will follow this, there will be some guidance documents and forms that will address if you want to bring a new AI tool forward, you would have to fill out the form, present it to the governance team, and they would do a review, and some of those things would be part of that review is what's the security. We've had some discussions with IT. Can we retrieve information if something is, accidentally input? Are we able to retrieve that? So those would all be discussions for the governance team. And in the policy, there will be kind of direct responsibilities for each member of the team. So if it's IT, they will have specific responsibilities on that team. And so I'll use I want to say hypothetical, but it's not really, but let's say the clerk's department has a member on the team, their responsibilities would probably be the privacy portion, or a great deal of it would be the privacy portion as well as other items. So I think it's hard without seeing the administrative tool, but we wanted to get this out quickly. And like I said, we'll circulate the administrative piece. We wanted something that was very quickly, we were able to adapt. If something changes, we don't want to wait weeks, we want to be able to make the change quickly. And then if there is a change to the policy, then that would come back for circulation, so council would see it.
Okay, yep, go
And
on.
then just to sort of build on that then, I think one of the reasons why it would be worth paying more for a domestic service, which doesn't exist yet, by the way, like we can't do that. So it will eventually become a critical tool for operations, I think. And if you look at what Anthropic's going through now, they had their little issue with the Department of Defense, and then now suddenly the United States government basically pulled 2 of their major models, and anybody that's been using that active model within their system has to completely rewrite all their software. So I worry about having just Copilot and just keeping all of our eggs in one basket in a situation like this.
If I may, one of the tools that probably will be one of the first pilots will probably be GovAI. And as far as I know, I mean, please don't quote me on this, but as far as I know, I think it's based in Windsor. So there are probably some domestic offerings. I just don't want to commit to that right now. It's just one of the courses I'm taking, there seems to be quite a bit of feedback on that particular AI platform, that a lot of government organizations are using that one. And so we would probably suggest that that would be one of the first ones to pilot.
Okay. So, anything else?
No, I hope there's gonna be some training on this, because I haven't understood a word that was said.
Go ahead.
If I may, we've had some conversations with IT about training, and we also have Sarah, the librarian, so great wealth of resource on AI.
Yeah.
And so I expect it'll be a team collaboration on the training. And it may not be they'll all start at a base level, and then, and I think we'll open it up to everybody.
Okay, no, I think that's a good thing, so, so I'm not hearing anything in terms of like anything major to change, because like you said, this is sort of the guiding document, but then we're getting into sort of like, you'll come back with, more of the nuts and bolts.
Yeah, and I wanted to specifically address that comment, Madam Mayor, if I may, about, Adobe. We've also had questions about Designer in PowerPoint, because it's kind of an AI tool. One could consider, even spelling and grammar checks as a version of AI. And we're saying in the definitions that those were pre-approved. And that's, the definition of AI addresses those pre-approved items. So it doesn't mean that you cannot use those features because they were already approved by the municipality. It's just addressing any new features. And we're saying Copilot's okay for general use across those sectors, if that makes sense.
Okay, got it. Is there anything else? There is a recommended motion there that lays it out pretty clearly, the next step, so. Anybody want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion, I don't know what it means.
Well, then I'm not letting you make the motion. Ruth Ann's gonna make the motion. Colin, do you want to second it? All those in favor? We want to be crystal clear. You can vote. It's like, I just don't want you to make a motion. You say, I don't know what I'm doing. Let's not open ourselves up. Anyway, thank you. Thank you for that, and stay tuned, right? So, okay, we're into the home stretch almost, people. Next up is, we have a bylaw amendment to replace road supervisor title with public works manager. I thought we've been doing this in practice, but we haven't done it like actually legit in the document.
Move the recommendation.
Perfect.
I understand this one.
Okay, I'll let you move it then. Seconded by Colin, all those in favor? That's approved. And purchase and installation of backup generator at Wilson Park Community Center. Oh, here's where the extra money's being spent.
Yeah, this was the segue into this conversation, Madam Mayor.
The money we saved, yeah.
So even though I'm the author of this report, it was a collaborative effort. When we got the funding for the community, sorry, I'm trying to find my wording here.
It's okay.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. The CEPG group.
Right.
So we applied for a fund of $50,000. We received the funds, and in that funding application, there was some criteria. One of them was a repair of the generator at Wilson Park. When staff started going down the road of looking into this, just the age of the generator, it didn't have an automatic transfer switch, meaning staff had to attend the site to transfer the power over to the building. We looked at it and if any of the members here that were part of this group, if I'm saying something wrong, please correct me. But Gary, in his budgeting, had budgeted for the repair, so we started talking about, like, maybe it's time to just, instead of repairing it, because it has to be relocated anyway, because there's exhaust infiltrating into the community center. We thought, we've got to do a relocation. The generator's not new. It doesn't have an automatic transfer switch. We started going down the road. Maybe we use the money that we had budgeted for. We bring a request to council with the money that we received in the fund application. When we went down that road, we realized we still don't have enough money. So really what the ask is, we have some concerns with health and safety, obviously the public using the building if the generator was running, but also the health and safety of the fire department, because the relationship in that building's a little bit complicated. The hydro is separate, but the water is not. And because we have, health and safety concerns with decontamination, firefighters get exposed. They do have some on-site decontamination, but not to the extent that they should. Like, you should be going back to the station and washing. We thought it would be advantageous to bring a report forward to council asking for the funds from the SCBA where there was some cost savings there, and do a complete upgrade of that complex. And it has other benefits other than what we've disclosed in here, but I mean, having that automatic feature if somebody's renting it or using it, the library. So that's why the report's coming forward.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. Any questions, any comments?
Move the recommendation.
Okie dokie, seconded for that, seconded by Ruth Ann. All those in favor?
It's a good question.
Whoa, got in.
So I realized that we're getting the extra $8,000 from the self-contained breathing apparatus, but there's about $65,000 extra dollars from that. Do we know what's gonna happen with the other $57,000?
I don't know that the complete $57,000, no. I did put a clause in the bottom of my report, talking about there's recently been a radio issue addressed with coverage, and our fire chief could probably add to this, but I'll do my best, and if he wants to jump in, he can help me. But there's been some coverage issues down in the southern portion of the municipality. Some of it has to do with some upgrades to some Rogers stuff, that's my understanding, but we thought if we could put a repeater and, am I correct, a repeater and a base radio in the building, that would help address some of those communications issues. But unfortunately, we didn't have the costing for this report.
Right.
So the conversation in here is more of a segue into the next report once we have more detailed information.
They're gonna spend the money, basically, is what they're saying.
I'm
So
gonna spend the money.
I know you want to spend, well, we get to approve it, so we kind of are. But Judy, you wanted to add to that.
If I may, and if my memory serves correctly, the SCBA was being funded from OMPF funds, so it'll stay there and can be used for next year, any OMPF or something else comes up this year.
Okay, all right. But they've already got plans in place for it, sounds like. Anyway, all right, so there's motion on the floor, duly seconded. All those in favor? That is approved. Okay, and our last report here is the appointment of the interim chief administrative officer. And I introduced her earlier this morning. As you know, we're not quite done this meeting yet because this is Alana's final council meeting. We will be addressing that shortly, but because of that, we are appointing Shannon Hunter as an interim CEO. So I am looking for a mover to recommend that a bylaw be passed at the end of the meeting to appoint Shannon as the chief administrative officer for the corporation of the Township of North Kawartha, effective June 17th, which is tomorrow. Moved by Ruth Ann, seconded by Colin. All those in favor? That is approved. Okay, and with that, there's no new business, no correspondence, we've done our closed session, and, yeah.
We have support for Bill.
Oh, thank you, yes, whoa, yes, okay, I forgot about that, that was the amendment. We had at our last meeting, if folks recall our discussion, that the province has come forward, posting on the ERO about amending or allowing for administrative monetary penalties to be used to address zoning bylaw infractions, right? And so the direction was given to staff to draft a letter, or basically draft something that we could submit a submission for it, outlining that, you know, that we're in favor of this. As I said, we talked about it, it aligns with, you know, what we, the recommendations from the short-term rental committee and the use of AMPs. So, Jason, did you want to just touch on it briefly, your letter?
Yeah, well, let me pull it up here. Just trying to find it.
God, thank you for that.
My apologies.
That's okay.
I think essentially, I don't have it in front of me, but I can wing it.
Yeah.
Essentially, it was where council's direction was to draft a submission to the province. So we, in the report, we basically say that we want that, this is the submission, and I don't have it in front of me, like I said, but you've read the submission. But really, we're in support of AMPS, and we're kind of outlining why we support it, and how we're supporting it, and what we're looking for from the province. So it's basically saying we support it, we also want some guidance and direction on, you know, how it's gonna be implemented.
Yeah, and so your motion is that we received the report, council endorsed the attached staff submission in support of Bill 119, and that council direct that the submission be forwarded to the province of Ontario, including the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing and our MPPs, right? Okay, and I trust that everybody did read through it, I did, and it's excellent, so. Okay, can I have a mover for that recommendation, please? Nobody? Ruth Ann, seconded by Colin, all those in favor? That is approved. Good, we send that off, get it in by the deadline. And now, okay, now we're getting to it, but do we want to take a little bit of a break to bring folks in? I don't know, is Norm?
No, that's not here.
Oh, okay, that's what I was thinking. So, okay, well then. Let me get myself organized here, hang on. I'm gonna grab something. She's got props. Pardon? She's got props. We didn't forget the $1 million check.
That's where the $57,000.
Yeah, just a little drop in that bucket. Anyway, okay. So, as I stated earlier, this is Alana's last council meeting with the Township of North Kawartha, or with any township for that matter, unless there's something else going on. I don't know, anyway. Okay, I'm gonna keep myself together here. Today, we have the honor of recognizing and celebrating CAO Alana Solomon as she retires after 26 years of dedicated service to North Kawartha. Alana's career with the township began on June 28th, 2000, when she joined the organization as administrative assistant. On January 1st, 2010, she became deputy clerk and assistant to the CAO. On October 4th, 2016, she became Deputy Chief Administrative Officer. Then on January 1st, 2017, she stepped into her current role as the Chief Administrative Officer. Throughout her career, Alana served in many important capacities, including on the Health and Safety Committee and as Secretary for the Police Service Board. She also invested continually in her own professional development, completing an impressive range of training and education, including Community Emergency Management Coordinator training, Incident Management System training, the Municipal Administration Program, Municipal Law, Municipal Accounting and Finance, Employment Law, Human Resources for Municipalities, Certified Municipal Officer Accreditation, a Diploma in Municipal Administration with Honors, and the Executive Program in Municipal Leadership from York University. That's an exhaustive list. But while Alana's resume is impressive, it's not just the titles, courses, or credentials that define her time with North Kawartha. Come on in. It is the way she has carried herself in every role she has held. She has been friendly, supportive, helpful, and always willing to assist, suggest, and mentor. She is someone people could turn to for guidance, clarity, and calm perspective. One of Alana's greatest talents is her ability to take detailed notes. In meetings, conferences, and workshops, She seems to have a special power where she can be writing down what was said on one topic while still listening and understanding what's being said about the next. And that ability has served this organization incredibly well over the years. I've always known that if I can't remember what was said or what happened at a particular meeting, I could just ask Alana and she'd go through her notes. Combined with that attention to detail are her legendary organizational skills. Many years ago, Alana teamed up with Gary and worked with every department to implement the Joint Occupational Health and Safety Committee. Policies and procedures were created, inspections were completed, correspondence was tracked, and meeting minutes were maintained. Everything was organized in binders, tabbed in chronological order. Then came a surprise inspection from the Ministry of Labor, and the inspector was blown away by the level of organization and detail. Needless to say, the township passed the inspection with flying colors. In my role as mayor, Alana has provided an excellent, I'm going to do this. Alana has provided an excellent counterpoint and balance to my mile-a-minute brain and mouth. Like I said, during COVID, she's the best left hand, but right hand person that I could have by my side. Alana's ability to think calmly and rationally, to see the big picture, and to consider the potential outcomes of decisions has been critical, not only for me as mayor, but for our entire organization. Her steady advice, support, and leadership have been deeply appreciated. Alana, on behalf of council, staff, and the community, thank you for your decades of service, your dedication, your wisdom, your patience, your care, and you have made a meaningful difference here and you will be greatly missed. We wish you all the very best in your well-earned retirement. Thank you very much. I'm not quite done yet, but anyway. I'm going to open it up to you to say a few words if you want.
Oh dear. Well, I just want to take a moment to let everyone know, I'm sure everybody already knows, that I really have enjoyed all of my jobs at the township. I really enjoy working for the Township of North Kawartha, and I've really enjoyed supporting this community. It's a great community full of lots of great people. And I just wanted to take a moment to thank all of the people that dropped by with cards for me and phoned me and emailed me and, thanked me for little things that I had even forgotten that had happened over the years. And it was really great to reminisce and enjoy that. So I truly appreciate that I've been able to work with great co-workers, great leadership team, and great support from council members over the years. And I just really appreciate everyone's support, and I'll miss everyone.
Oh, thank you. So, we need to do a picture. Wipe away the tears. But anyway, in recognition of your 26 years of dedicated service, leaving a lasting legacy as Chief Administrative Officer, and the $1 million check, I better give that to you right now. Where would you like this, Kelly?
Let's go over here.
Oh yeah. Get the banner in. I always do that. This is the side I was like, where you went a whole other part of it too. All right. Gotta do the writing. Okay, awesome. Anybody else want to come up, council? I think council, you guys should come up and join us. For sure. We might have to step forward, but yeah, let them come in behind. Perfect. Okay, so you tell us how we're going. Yep. Okay. I mean, are we good?
Excellent.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that wants to say a few words? This is your last opportunity to dish some dirt on Alana. You're gone into the road. Yeah, I didn't tell you this was the road, so I'm not seeing anyone. Okay, all right, well.
I don't know where I'm gonna get my humbugs now.
She might have to make special trips back. We'll place our orders for humbugs.
So Lana brings me in my humbug.
Did she not give you her home phone number?
It's okay, I won't
Okay,
get anybody else.
Approve my words. All right, so we just need to do, the bylaws. We do have little refreshments and a little bit of a party organized in the back here, but let's finish the remainder of the, council meeting, please, Kelly.
We have a bylaw to stop up, to close and sell to the abutting landowners and their respective nominees, those lands and premises more particularly described in Schedule A, Annex Tier 2 as redale between concessions 8 and 9, geographic Township of Burley, Township of North Kawartha. A bylaw to stop up, to close and sell to the abutting landowners or their respective nominees, those lands and premises more particularly described as part redale in front of Lot 8, Concession 7, geographic Township of Chandos, Township of North Kawartha. A bylaw to adopt a council and staff use of artificial intelligence, AI policy. A bylaw to amend the road supervisor title and interchange it with the current title of Public Works Manager. A bylaw to appoint a chief administrative officer.
Okay, can I move for those bylaws, please? Moved by Colin, seconded by Jim, all in favor? Those bylaws have been approved. Can I have a motion to confirm the proceedings of today's meeting? Moved by Colin, seconded by Ruth Ann, all those in favor? We are confirmed. Motion to adjourn. Moved by Colin, second and thirded by Jim. We are adjourned, people. Thank